Could you hear me flipping through paper?
Yeah, I was wondering what that was. I thought it was somebody farting.
I needed like a fidget toy then.
Yeah.
A noiseless fidget toy.
They have
Because when we
a
record,
lot on
I play
TikTok.
with this. I play with this a lot.
Good to know I'm not the only one that gets nervous.
No, because I don't know what to do with my hands when they're talking. So I just play with this.
Welcome to Two Guys Unfiltered, a podcast where trans people share their coming out stories, the funny ones, the hard ones, and everything in between. I'm Juju.
And I'm August, so whether you're trans, questioning, or just here to learn, we're glad you're here. Our guest today is Jubilee. We nerded out about Warhammer, which is actually really fucking interesting. She talked about moving to Japan for a few years. She shared her coming out story, and then her carefree spirit she had throughout her transition process. So let's get into it. Okay, so Jubilee, if you can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Jubilee Alexander. Um, I use she, they pronouns, and I'm a trans feminine person of sorts. Some of you might know me online as Titan of Joy. I'm a TikToker, and that's super cool as someone who's about to turn 40.
No, but TikToking is the thing now, so fuck it, why not?
That's true. That joke worked a little better back in the day where I was like, 36-year-old TikToker when it was just like a less serious app, early pandemic stuff.
Right.
But yeah,
And I see like what you post a lot is like about Warhammer. Can you explain that? Because I am
oh
so
yeah.
invested now.
Okay, how much time do we have? 4 hours later. Warhammer is a huge. The best way to describe it is, the Forgotten Realms in D&D. Do you know
I
that
know
general
of
concept?
D&D, but not anything past
Hmm.
the name.
It's like it's like the Star Wars universe in that there is a base story and a base narrative that's happening, and there's media and games on basically every angle about it. There's video games, there's books, there's fan fiction, there's tabletop game, there's a role-playing game, but the main core of it is a tabletop war game, um, which is it's kind of the final boss of nerdy hobbies. Magic might be a little worse because Magic is both more expensive and, well, I'm biased, but I think it is maybe a little bit cooler, like by this much, just because you have to buy, build, and paint the toys that you are playing with. You don't just buy the cards and use them, kind of
That
deal.
definitely is a lot
I can
cooler.
also see I can also see the argument for that being extremely more nerdy than just
Oh,
buying a
definitely,
deck
but
of
that's what
cards and
makes it
playing
cooler.
something. Yeah. You know what? I like that idea. So yeah, I mean, I have undiagnosed ADHD probably, and my TikTok has been many, many different random things. I do characters. I mostly just do whatever the hell I feel like. But what it really kind of it didn't take off with Warhammer, but that's the thing that's kind of like stuck around the longest. I kind of when I first got into it, it's a little over 2 years ago that I first got into it because I am a nerdy person and I was in nerdy spaces. I started buying some models and painting because I'd done painting for D&D. Because painting is the main thing for me. Like, I really like painting and having a goal around, like, oh, I need to buy the army and then build the army and then paint the army so I can play with it is just it's a bunch of different stages that are really good for my ADHD and just keep me invested. And 2 years, a little over 2 years, I've got three giant armies, and it's most of what my TikTok's about. Um, this summer I went to the company that makes the game holds, there are lots of small local tournaments that you play. You can just play casually with friends. You can meet up with random people and play, and then there are tournaments. And the biggest tournaments, one of the biggest tournaments was in Tacoma, in July, and I went to that, and it was so cool because I don't think it's an exaggeration to say maybe 200 people came up to me over the weekend and were like, "Jubilee, I see your stuff online all the." I'm like, and it was just like, "Oh my God, I'm so famous right now." And it was, of course, Warhammer is 99% men, and the other 1% is trans women who, most of whom got into it before they transitioned and they just stuck with the hobby. So I'm a late in life Warhammer person. So
So you would say that it was like it's a common hobby for trans people, trans women specifically to have, or
the first tournament I went to that had about 50 people, 10% of the players were trans women, which is
okay, that's a
not
pretty big
the
percentage,
trans
but
people. It's like a
okay.
huge percentage, and it's like
Yeah.
it makes sense. It attracts a lot of the things about it kind of overlap in a way where I just I mean there was even there are even people in the orbit where you know you're not supposed to do this, but we're kind of quietly to ourselves. We're like, what do you think? 1 or 2 years before that person probably comes out as some sort of gender nonconforming, and it's like, oh
You're
yeah, we
like, the
got
radar
another
is
one.
going off somehow, so
Oh yeah, yeah. Like this boy is asking, like, is spending a lot of time like being very nice to us, even though like I'm kicking his ass at the game, but yeah, it does seem to attract a pretty large trans population, and that's something that I very much focus on. Like my page has always been that I'm trans first, and mainly because the Warhammer kind of tacked on at the end. I'm a like most Warhammer creators are like Warhammer creators first, and then kind of talk about the other stuff. But I've have I'm so openly and screamingly trans on my page that it just was always part of it. Like, and then
I
when
love it
I
though.
I will occasionally paint things like in pride flag colors, but um it's feels pretty important. Like I know there are lots of like there aren't there are almost no women in this space at all, and so the and that's just it's a holdover because it's a very dude it was a very dude oriented thing. Like some of the main army, the Space Marines, canonically there are no women Space Marines. So, and that was 90% of the game was playing with your Space Marines, and so women obviously didn't have anything to look at, and they're like slowly expanding it, and the company is listening to feedback like that. In fact, just in the last, I guess it was probably like in the last year, one of the armies they just suddenly created a female custodian. It's long and short of it is it's a super space marine. They're like, oh yeah, there have always been female custodians. They just like tweeted that out. They didn't, and it was such a controversial thing because obviously like the weirdos are like they're just doing it because woke Warhammer is woke now, and some people were like, I don't think they made a big enough deal about it. And I'm actually of a very specific opinion that there's an idea in the lore in like lore, and it's kind of an ingenious thing that the original creators did where lore is deliberately vague, and the creators say the reason it's this way is that no one can be trusted, everyone's lying all the time, records are lost, humanity's technology is crumbling and they don't know how to work it, so they don't like even if they have the records they don't know how to read them, and they're just like, oh yeah, this was always in the lore, you just like, and the response was like, for me, I'm like, that's cool. That's a cool way to like they didn't do the look at us, we're trying to appeal to these people. They're just like, oh yeah, these custodians, there were always female versions of these. And I thought that was pretty cool, but you know, as a perfect
Just
thing is,
gaslighting
nobody seemed happy about
their
that.
bad fans.
Exactly. I'm like, I
Yeah,
love it.
I
I
love
mean, they
that.
literally, the bad fans said that. They're like, we're being gaslighted. I'm like, yes, you are.
Yes, you are, and I'm here for it. And another interesting little tidbit you put in your form was that you moved to Japan at 20.
I
Can you
did. That
talk to
was,
us about that? Because that's a huge transition,
yeah,
culture shock.
yeah. No, I had taken I have an English degree, and I needed a language, and I don't know if you picked up from the everything about me, but a bit of a nerd. I was very much into anime and thought it was cool. So I was taking a Japanese class for my language as part of my degree. And there's a program called the JET program. It's Japan Exchange and Teaching. And it's run by their Ministry of Education, the gold standard of teaching English in Japan, because there's lots of private companies that do it. And the JET program is the one run by their government. They put I haven't looked at their numbers recently. I know the pandemic super killed it, obviously, because there were thousands of
Mhm.
people. But when I went, there were like 6,000 teachers or so from dozens of countries, mostly the US and Canada, but like I knew people from South Africa and Iran, and there are a few Germans, a lot of Canadians, and they put you in really out of this particular program goes to really out of the way places. So they put you in a very rural part of Japan, um, to schools that don't really have the resource. It's like in bigger cities, kids can get English tutoring easily because they're metropolitan areas and there are lots of foreign speakers. But I'm not kidding that there were probably four. There were six not Japanese people in my municipality of like 40,000 people. And four of them were teachers, and two of them were agricultural exchange like workers or slash students. Um, and so they throw you in the middle of nowhere, and I have literally never made more money than when I did that because it was. I mean, I was also 20. I had no I had no bills. I wasn't gonna be. I've continued to defer my student loans forever, but I was like. I had this little house that they had prepared. They had prepared, and where the English teacher always lived because you get like a 1 year contract and you can renew as up to I think 5 years. Um and so like when one person leaves, another one comes in. And even with my year and a half, I barely spoke it. But yeah, I was in Nagasaki Prefecture, which is Japan is not very wide, but it is extremely long because I was little over 1,000 miles, I think, from Tokyo. So I was like, there were big cities to go to, but I had a car. I had to learn how to drive on the other side of the road, which was a real mindfuck. Um, but it was just great. I had four different schools that I would just bounce between on different days of the week, and those were the days where every period would be like a different English class, and you didn't need a teaching background. They mostly wanted the cultural exchange, but I have no people are always like, "Ooh, you were in Japan. What was the queer experience like?" I was like, "I don't know. I was as far as I knew, I was a straight boy
Right.
until like I was 36 or something. It was before any like I had no concept of it. Like the closest like every now and then I would do something a little gender nonconforming, but it was more like in a punk rock way where they were
Mm.
like, well, in this particular club, for the kendo in particular, they were like, well, all the boys wear dark blue, um, like a dark blue gi under their armor. And I was like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna buy a white gi. And so they were like, why did you get a white gi? I was like, because I'm white. And they're like, okay. Um,
So while you were in Japan, there
yeah.
was like no inkling of you being a part of the LGBTQ community as a whole.
No, no, like it was like I mean I there was a little bit of I dabbled in clothes, but like
Okay.
clothes that were weird for me because I was a gym I was like a jeans, shorts, and t-shirts dude back then. I was also 20. Like I did know who I like. I did I did started college very, very early, and all I
Mm-hmm.
did was college. So like I didn't know who the hell I was. And, you know, while Japanese fashion was like the Japanese fashion for people in like their early 20s was more feminine, it didn't feel like a gender explory kind of way. And I dated women exclusively while I was there. So yeah, that it's kind of this weird thing where people are like, "Ooh, I hear they're really misogynistic in Japan." I'm like, "They are." Wasn't affecting me at the time though. Oh, we just dropped the revelation that I have a twin brother.
How is that? I was having a twin.
Having a twin rules. Having a twin's
I
great. Like
bet.
he's literally my best friend. He I mean, we were very much very similar people until we were like 18, 19 or so. He's great. Yeah, him and his family live in LA and yeah, he's the second person I told. I told my partner first, and he was the second person I came up to. And
Nice.
he's like, "Cool, pronouns." And like about every other year or so, I go, "Just so you know," and he's a very masculine person. I go, "Just so you know, this trans is not my thing. If you ever like confuse something." And he's like, "I genuinely have considered it. Like, I've like explored my gender. I've unpacked some things, and I'm like, no, I think this is correct." And we even made a joke about it. I made a video where it was a pair of twins who were AMAB, and they both did transition. And so I stitch it with me and him, and I look at him and I just hold up the box of estrogen and start shaking it around. I'm like, eh.
That's so funny. That's something I would do to my twin too. Be like, come on, the the grass is greener on the other
Look, you could
side,
be so
definitely.
pretty.
Right, exactly. That's so funny.
Also, very nice to have a where I would be like, because again, like our aesthetics were super different. Like he's always been super into working out and getting super bulky. And he's great. He grew a big blonde beard, which when he first started that was a little dysphoric because I'm like trying to get rid of all of this, and then he's like
Hmm.
got this scraggly beard he's starting to grow out. I'm like, I don't know how to tell you that I hate looking at these pictures of you. So. But now he looks super different, so it's not that big
Hmm.
of a deal. But our voices are identical because I don't voice train. I just
Me
can't be
either.
fucked. Can I swear?
Same. Yes, of course.
Yes. Okay, cool, cool. Usually I ask that before swearing, but yeah, I can't be bothered to do that. But when we get together, we get excited. I'll lilt up a little bit from time to time, and when I drop super low, I go, "Oh, I didn't love that," but also, I'm not doing anything to fix it. But when we get together
Yeah.
and we start talking, we start to real our voices really start to sync up, and it's very funny.
All right. So Jubilee, can you give us a little summary of your coming out story? When did you come out, and then how soon after did you start medically transitioning?
I It's very weird because there was never really an aha moment exactly. As I said, I had no inkling into my I mean, I I was even fully like I was 28 or 29 when my now ex-wife and I were watching we watched 6 seasons of Drag Race back and forth, and she like once or twice did my makeup, and I'm like, "Huh, that's cool. I look very feminine. Oh well." And the amount of times I brushed close to that, like I was even like, "I wonder if I could do drag." And then I was like, "Oh, I cannot sew. Like that won't be a thing I can do." Oh well, let's not think about that. And it was just I've say all the time where I'm like, I just needed to have one trans friend to be like,
Hmm.
"Do you wanna,
Hmm.
explore that a little more?" But, I came so close several times to probably figuring something out. Um, and right about yeah, it was right about when my ex-wife and I split up, I started to grow my hair out, and I grew my hair out for, 5 years or something, and just generally, very slowly kind of starting to explore, like, I guess a more feminine way of dressing, and for a long time, it was like I wasn't doing it to explore gender. In fact, many of the things I started to do were specifically because fuck it, I can be a straight man who I wore these law I worked in a grocery store and I was like the wine steward and it was freezing where I was. So I was getting bigger and bigger cardigans and then I found one that was like almost floor length and I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm gonna wear. And I'm like billowing around this grocery store, like organizing wine stacks. And um while I was in uh, while I was doing that, at one point, I had a friend who did nails, and for a show I was in, she did a set of press-ons, like the idea being, oh, this way you can when you I it was A Midsummer Night's Dream. Are either of you
Mm,
familiar?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
mm-mm.
Yeah, well, I'm playing like the main fairy Puck in that, and I was like a side character in the city, and then when we get out into the forest, I like transform into this like rock star, like drag queen slash king kind of like very androgynous fairy, but I wanted crazy nails. And she made me some press-ons and just like this way you can put them on for the show and then take them off. And I was a very physical show, so they were flying everywhere. So I just said, this isn't gonna work. Can you just do my nails? Like do them great. And it was like, beads and glitter, and she made a couple of them extra long. And after and I like she did that and she had to do it like a week before the show and I was like okay, this is cool. But even then I was like people were like, why did you paint your nails? I mean, this was 2017, so it was less common but not uncommon.
Mm.
And I was like, why not? And, and in my head even back then I remember having the thought of, I like these. Like, these are nice. I like having them like this. Like, I would get like metallic foil or just like neon. And in my head, what I was saying was, if I do this and continue to be, like people, obviously people, I would turn to my coworkers and be like, everyone thinks I'm gay because I have painted nails, right? And they're like, well, yeah, they all think that, but I know you're not. And I'm like, cool. I'm not gay. The monkey paw starting to monkey paw with a painted nail starting to curl up. But I was saying to myself, I will do this so that if anyone else needs that normalized, like literally, I'm thinking about trans people, but I'm like, if someone needs the freedom to explore that, this will normalize it in a tiny little way. Um, and I was like, oh man, I'm such a good ally. And I'm on Twitter then, and I'm suddenly following like hundreds of trans women, and I'm just and again, all of these things at all of these points, I'm so close, but I continued to run up against the story of I don't feel like I was a girl. And it took I think it's weirdly in Natalie Wynn ContraPoints on YouTube's. She made her video about incels. She has a random aside where she talks about feeling like I was a boy at one point, and now that I'm supposed to be a woman. And I had never heard anyone ex- express it in that way. And I was like, I didn't even know that was a option. Like all of my exploring of androgyny and any kind of gender nonconformity was always like, I'm sure at some point someone asked, is this a gender thing? And I'm like, no, I don't think so, because the only story that I'd ever heard was the I've known since I was 3
Mm.
kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, I think it's like weirdly appropriative if I I didn't know I didn't have a roadmap for how to explore that. So I was just like, I guess I'm just wearing these kind of effeminate clothes and I'm painting my nails and I was doing theater all the time, so I was like playing around with makeup, and it the closest thing to an aha though was in that play with the painted nails. When we got to the actual production, it's like it was such a good play and we'd rehearsed for so long, so we were just kind of playing around with stuff. And at one point, like I had the director was giving us a lot of creative freedom to make our characters as raunchy and as sexy as possible. So I'm wearing like black leather pants and motorcycle boots. I eventually ditch my undershirt and I'm just wearing like this flowing skull shirt with a peacock top hat, and then like we get these black and gold like temporary tattoos, and I'm like having them all like creeping like up from my crotch and just all over my body. And like I started to have weird feelings where I'm like, I need like during the acting, I'm being like fuckboy rock star sexy dude. And like the fairies are loving it, they're eating it up. And I'm like, I'm starting to not love this feeling. And at some point during that, I started to open up to the possibility, but there was never there was never really that aha moment. But it was kind of bit by bit by bit. And then there was an audition while that play was going on, there was an audition for another one, and I told my partner at the time, I said, "I think I want to try out for Viola, who's a woman who in the play is a woman who dresses as a man." I'm like, "Oh, this is a little gender
Huh.
fucky. This feels very on brand for what seems to be whatever's going on here." And my my partner said, "Ooh, you don't want to take any roles away from women because there's really not enough of those in theater and Shakespeare in particular." And I was like, "Oh, honestly, that's a really good point. I should just stick to my stuff." And like 10 minutes later, she like reached over and got my hands and goes, "What's wrong? Like, I feel like I just kicked your puppy in front of you." And I was like, "Huh?" She goes, "You look like you're about to cry. Is anything okay?" And I believe what I said was, "I think there's something going on with my gender, and I don't think that I'm a boy." And she was like, "Oh, okay." And she's she was like, "Great. Like, let me know what needs to happen, what needs to change, or like just let me know." And a few days later I was like, no, yeah, this whole vibe of I think I spent a good deal of my life as a man, but now something needs to change because that's not working anymore. Um and a few days after that I told my sibling group chat, and a few days after that I told a small circle of people. And moving on from then, it would be several years of, okay, I can accept that there is some version of transness happening here. I don't know if it's just gender non-conforming. I don't know if it's fluidity. Um, I don't know if it's non-binary. And so for a long time, I said, I mean, was literally the meme of the he, him to he, they to they, she to she, they. And
Me
in this
too in
moment, I'm sitting
reverse.
here going,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But it would be several years of breaking down the gender nonconformity and the gender identity was important to take those little bits of it at a time. And then I was like, okay, so I'm gonna keep growing my hair out. I'm gonna play with more feminine clothing. You know, every chance I get, I'm, trying on friends' dresses and stuff. And it would be the same partner who I'd come out to was volunteering at a Planned Parenthood, and I kept saying, I was like, I should just like do one of those consults, do that like hormone consult or whatever. And she was like, while I was helping her drop the stuff off, she goes, "Did you want to make that appointment?" And I was like, "Oh, sure. Uh, gender, I would like a hormone appointment, please." And like, cool, like we'll put you down for that.
Oh no. What's one thing that someone should have warned you about before starting hormones?
Um, the One of the things that has been a little like kind of frustrating, but also like good at times, but just weird is that the informed consent way they do things is you just ask for hormones and they give them to you, and then you go, "I think I would like to." You kind of have to be the one to say, "Think I would like to go up. Think I would like to add progesterone," and except for like a 4 month period where I had a wonderful doctor who had like who was like a VA doctor who had helped veterans transition for like 30 years or something. Um, it was always like on me to to do the, oh, I would like to add a little more, like I'm not pleased with the results. Like there didn't seem to be like a plan or a schedule or anything like that. So that's probably the one thing would be just kind of knowing that, if, and it's probably different, and I'm sure it's different in every state, and I'm sure it's getting trickier, but um you know, I didn't even know that there was a risk for oh, here here's the more practical advice. If you go really high in your estrogen doses and you start getting migraines, that's not an uncommon thing, and shots will help alleviate that, because it's something like the oral estrogen spikes your levels to really high because it then drops very quickly that way, and that causes some like vascular dilation in like all over your body, and it caused my migraines, which I was getting like maybe one every other year or something. I was getting like multiple a week. And I was like, wow, my migraines seem really bad. And I just like randomly mentioned it at a hormone appointment. They go, oh, yeah, the oral estrogen will do that when you're taking this much. It's like, cool, that would have been great to know. Like, let's get me on shots.
I didn't know that.
So
Um,
you felt that like they didn't really care about the process of your transition. You had to be more the controller of it instead of them guiding you and asking questions if you were
yeah, I would
happy
have
with it,
loved,
the process.
yeah, I would have loved to have been told, for them to ask, what are your transition goals? And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'm sure at the beginning, again, that early, that summer of 2019 interview, I was like, I don't know, I'm gonna try hormones and see how I feel, because at every point of my transition, I've always been like, if any of this stops serving me and stops working, I'm willing to go back. Like I got on hormones to see, because I'd been hemming and hawing for like a year, and partially it was while you might not prescribe this to someone, it was genuinely good where my partner was like, do you just want to try it? Like maybe you'll grow tiny little boobs and we can get that fixed if you don't like it, I guess. Like, but it takes years, so how about you try it and you see if it makes you feel better? And it did, and it immediately did. All of my confusion and the honestly years that I spent being confused about, is this non-binary? Is this trans? Is this just me liking effeminate clothing? Has led to I mean, I literally just a few weeks ago was telling someone in one of my Discord servers, I was like, you don't need to know what you are to start doing the things that make you happy. And I mean very specifically around transition, because it's
No,
like,
definitely.
you don't, I needed to absolutely like Rube Goldberg machine reverse engineer, if a man paints his fingernails, that's fine. That was a very complicated and long way of getting to that, to realize that I was trans, and I didn't need to be trans to paint my nails. No one needs to be trans to paint their nails. So I always recommend to people, you can use a lot of because you don't need a label to do something. If you're interested in trying on dresses, try on a dress. If you're interested in painting your nails, do that. And if you do it and you go, oh, this isn't for me, at that's all good data, right? Like the
Mm-hmm.
hormones, if I felt really happy and kind of androgyny, like the freedom to think of myself as part of the queer community and think of myself as trans. And I was like, for a long time, that was really good, and it genuinely worked for me. But several parts of it, I wanted to be sure, and I could never be sure, and I don't know that I ever will be sure, because I mean, even in the last few weeks, I've been toying with dropping the they, because I like it's she 100% of the time, but I'm also like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could keep the they around. It's not hurting anyone
Yeah.
over there.
Yeah. No, I wholeheartedly agree. It's like you don't have to say or be 100% that you are trans to even think about starting hormones? Because I was the same as you. I was like, I don't really know if hormones are it for me. And then I ended up starting them, and then I ended up stopping because I was like, okay, too much. And then I ended up going back because I was like,
Okay.
wait, no, I needed at least some of it. Like, I have a small dosage for my testosterone, so I feel like that is enough for me. Like, just that little small dose every week, sometimes every 2, sometimes every 3 weeks, I forget. Um, but yeah, like, you don't have to have everything together to start thinking about the transition process. Like, you figure it out as you go, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, it sounds so obvious when someone hears it, but
Mhm.
like thinking about it for yourself is where it got all complicated. And again, a single
Right.
goddamn trans friend to just be like, "Do you want to try some?" Like,
Mhm.
I needed to be forced feminized, but that's neither here nor there.
No, I was forced masculinized, I guess, as well. So, like, someone had to tell me, like, you are trans for me to, like, click in my head that I was trans.
I think I went through like
Like,
the whole thing
show
of
me the mirror.
being like the biggest ally for the trans community. I'm like, oh, I love trans people. I love them. They're great. I'm not trans though, but I love trans people.
Yeah.
And so like I went through the
Yep.
whole like
Yeah,
ally thing. So that's interesting.
look at us, three wonderful allies. We
Yes.
allied a little too close to the sun.
Right. Look at all these Icaruses. You kind of spoke a little bit about, like, your brother, but how has the other family members reacted?
My two sisters were part of that initial group chat, so
Okay.
they are 100% for it. All of their all of their kids call me Aunt Jubilee. Most of them were very small. I mean, the oldest is 9, so this was, it was many, many years ago. So the my oldest niece is the only one who kind of she sort of I asked her the other day. I was like, "Do you remember when I went by Alex?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, kind of." I was like, "All right, cool."
Mhm.
But my my parents are my other family is a mixed bag. My extended family is scattered to the winds, and they're mostly weird cousins, and I don't talk to them. Not because of any of this. I just don't talk to them.
Right.
My my grandma's fantastic. My grandma's my grandma, I think deep down does not actually understand because she brought me to her room one time and goes, look at this show. And it was I think was it Alyssa Milano? And it's these drag queens go to a like tiny little town, like, usually a very conservative town that is a small but struggling like drag community. And they like inject some life into it or something. And she'd watched like 2 seasons of the show. And I was like, Grandma, I'm not really a drag queen. That's not what this is. And I just saw literally, huh? Like nothing. I'm like, honestly, you're trying. Like you're trying so
Yeah.
hard. She's 87 at this point. And then randomly made me cry because a few weeks after that, she was I was like getting ready to leave the house and she goes, "Oh, here." And she gives me this shopping bag full of stuff and she buys me all kinds of random decorations or stuff. And I pulled out the ugliest little clearly off-brand, legally distinct like baby dolls that were like Elsa. It was Elsa and it was two Disney princesses or something, and they were like ugly and made out of like sharp fabric, and I was like, thanks, Grandma. What are these?" And she goes, "Well, well, you're a girl and no one's ever bought you a baby doll, and I figured that was my time."
Oh,
And I'm just like, "Okay, thanks." Like
that
just
would make me
crying in the car.
sob. Yeah.
Oh, it was so cute and so sweet, and they're so ugly. Parents are not great about it. My dad is basically a anti-Black Lives Matter, like
Ugh.
deeply fascistic person. Has could never use my correct name or pronouns. Um, one time slipped up and called me her, and then corrected himself, and I'm like, cool. So we're doing
Wow.
this, great.
The effort
Um,
into having to do
and
that.
as of about Christmas, yeah, it sucked. Around Christmas time, um, I was I was pretty shitty to him, and my I had a conversation with my mom about it later, and she basically told me, "You're not actually not allowed to correct your dad anymore about any of this stuff. Like, it's very
Uh,
dystopian that you're doing that." And I'm like, "All right, well, we know what column you're in." So my parents live
right.
here in town, and I really haven't seen them since about Christmas. I mean, I see them every now and then when I have a sister who comes into town and brings my niece with her, and I'll go over there for that. But yeah, my parents have gone pretty far. My dad's always been there, but my mom's
Mhm.
kind of joining him over there, which is
Doubling down.
surprising. Yeah.
I'm sorry about that. That's frustrating.
Yeah.
But at
Thank you.
least you have all your other family members that love and support you.
Yeah.
And as far as your transition, what would you say has been the hardest part?
Think about that one. I mean, for trans feminine people, it's just the waiting. It takes so
Mhm.
long. And it's like you kind of keep going, maybe in year 6 I'll finally grow some real boobs. And it's so slow. That's been pretty tricky. I mean, got really lucky because most of the awkward parts of early trans feminine transition happened in lockdown. And because of my job, I've masked for 5 years at work, most of the time. So when I was getting laser and when I had to grow it out to get like some electrolysis, and when I was getting laser and like I it covered up covered up my face in a good way, which felt pretty
Mhm.
protecting. And my hair had gotten very long at that point. So I mean, I was even pre-transition, I would get called ma'am about 50% of the time. And now it's just 100%. So the pandemic kind of ruled because I was like I would just go to work and I was, already wearing my flowy wear my flowy cardigan at work, so I felt nice. I already had painted nails, and that was
Mhm.
super normalized. And I just, I never grew much facial hair, so when it stopped ever showing up, it was not that surprising. So a lot of the awkward parts of it were not that big of a deal. Um, and then randomly switching bathrooms was awkward. And not
Mhm.
in the way you'd think, like, again, because we started masking and stuff, people started, acting weird when I was in the men's room and be like, "Oh, this is
Hmm.
the wrong one," to the point of the only confrontation I've ever had in a bathroom was to insist that I belonged in the men's room. After starting hormones, I was I was in an airport and a man ran in after me and was like, "Oh no, oh miss, you're in the wrong one." I turned around and was like, "I know where," I'm screaming, sorry. I was like, "I know where I am," and marched into the stall and slammed the door. And I was like, "What am I doing?" And literally that same weekend, because I was traveling for a friend's wedding, is I wore a dress to the wedding and was getting ready to and was like walk to the bathroom. And I was pretty drunk, and I was like just kind of standing in line. And this old man comes out to you, was like, "Miss, this is the men's room. Yours is over there." And I was like, "Oh," and he goes, "It's okay. I've had a few too many too." And then like he kind of so gently just sort of like pushed me, just sort of generally towards it, not hard at all, just gently
Right.
pushed me towards it. And I go, "Here we go." And I walked into the women's room for the first time, and I
What a
was
great
like,
first
"Thank you,
experience.
random drunk man at a wedding."
But being a drunk girl in like a women's restroom, I hear is everything because they just hype each other up, do each other's makeup.
Yeah, I remember I had started I was talking to someone online who lived a few hours away, and so we'd agreed like, "Hey, we both got our vaccines, let's meet up." And I was like, "Ooh, I'm traveling, I'm driving, but I'm alone. I'm gonna be at like gas stations and stuff, so I'm gonna like super fem up." And I'm like, "Oh, it's still pandemic, so I've got a mask on, so I feel pretty good." So I like got super femmed up or whatever. And I did like the way my heart dropped when someone goes, "Excuse me," and I'm like, oh God, this is I'm about to be hate crime. This woman was like, "Your dress is so great, and your eye makeup is great. How do you do that?" or something. And I like couldn't get out of the bathroom because like two or three different people were like, "Oh yeah, my granddaughter does her crazy eye makeup," and I was like, "Oh, this is my like second time ever in a women's room." So
We
it
love
is pretty good.
girlhood.
You do get you. There's a lot more camaraderie.
That's definitely what I miss is girlhood. Like, just little chats in the restroom, taking our sweet time. Now I'm like, head down, in, do my business, get out.
Wash your hands.
I don't I
Yes,
don't
wash your
miss I
hands.
don't miss it.
No, I hate it so
Yes,
much.
wash your
That is
hands.
the one thing I regret. That's the worst thing of transitioning is having to use the men's restroom now. For me,
I
at
don't know. For
least.
me, women's restrooms were always awkward because I was always a very masculine, like, female. So I would
Uh,
always get the,
I
"Oh,
get you.
you're in the wrong bathroom," and I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm a girl." And then, like, so even well, I feel like even men's restrooms for me are still awkward because 'cause they're just gross.
Hmm.
So I just don't like using public restrooms in general. So I try not to,
Yeah,
but if I
same.
have to, I will.
The
But
not to get too specific, but trans femme how do I say this? Non-op trans femme privilege is the ability to go into the grossest like porta potty,
Yeah,
like truck stop, like single room restroom and not have to touch anything. I'm like,
yeah.
the only time I will stand and use the restroom is I'm like, ha ha ha, I don't have to touch anything.
I've been thinking of getting an STP, but I don't know how I feel
I
about
don't
it
know.
because it just
Too
feels like
stressful.
a straw. Like, what if it just wets my pants instead? Yeah, it just feels like
Exactly.
a straw.
It's just too much of a bother. Why not?
Yeah,
Just sit down.
too much effort.
Yeah. What would you say has probably been the most joyful part of your transition?
I mean, it weirdly is just the baseline joy. Like it, joyful is the perfect word. It is not. I was always a really happy person. Like that one of the nicest things my sister ever said to me was I think this was like in the middle of my divorce or something where I was like I was on a phone call with her and I was like getting really excited or something and she goes, "You just managed to manufacture happiness in whatever situation where you are." And I'm like, "It's mostly ADHD and compartmentalizing, but also it works really good there." But like my whole transition has been focused on what makes me happy, not really eliminating a lot of sadness. And I didn't realize how much hormones and just moving through the world as a woman now makes me even happier. Like that baseline was already very good and it got even better. And I'm just like, I just like get so happy sometimes. I also love my job. I'm in borderline dire poverty, but I like I'll just be like walking into work, the ass crack of dawn to drive 70 annoying little screaming kids between the place, and I'm so happy because everything's just like clicking in that way that I just feel like I'm like vibrating with joy. Um
I love
and it's
that.
like it's not any it again doesn't feel like any specific thing. It's not like I grew boobs, like kind of. I grew boobs, and I'm like, all right, cool. Like, like a lot of this stuff was already there, though. Like, my body was fairly feminine. It's grown. I grew hips, and I don't know where those came from because they're like my hips turned out in a way, and I'm like, who's she? Where'd she come from? Like, all right, cool. Um, but it was like none of that was ever the goal. Like, it was always just about, like, just kind of exploring. And yeah, dresses are so easy to put on. Dresses might be the actual, like, the simple answer might be just like, you can throw on a dress and it's so, like, I've stopped wearing even heels at this point. I wear, like, cute little sneakers with a dress. And I'm like, I'm, like, cuter than 90% of the people in this place right now. So,
Breaking news!
The Texas House just passed a Senate Bill 8, also known as the Bathroom Bill, with an 86 to 45 vote. The bill mandates that people in public schools, government buildings, shelters use bathrooms to match their sex assigned at birth and not their gender identity. The bill imposes fines up to $125,000 on institutions that don't comply, not individuals. It also allows private citizens to report violations to the state attorney. General supporters claim it's about privacy and safety, but civil rights groups call it cruel, discriminatory, and dangerous, especially for trans and intersex people. If signed, Texas would join nearly 20 other states with similar laws.
Nearly 200 Democrat congressionals have filed an amicus brief asking for the Supreme Court to maintain state bans and restrictions on conversion therapy for minors. The amicus brief references a Colorado case where Kaylee Childs, a licensed Christian counselor, argues that Colorado's conversion therapy ban prohibits her from advising clients who have unwanted same-sex attractions or gender identity confusion. The amicus brief argues that Childs misinterpreted Colorado's ban as an attack on her free speech, which in reality was made to maintain clear and professional standards for licensed counselors.
In other news, Kenya's High Court just made history by ruling in favor of a transgender woman who was mistreated in jail. She was arrested in 2019 and forced to undergo invasive searches and medical exams just because she's trans. The court said this violated her rights and awarded her about $7,500 in damages. But most importantly, the judge ordered the Kenyan government to pass laws protecting transgender people. A first for the country, this is a huge step for trans rights in Kenya and can lead to real legal recognition and protection for the future.
If you want to read more into these stories, the links to the articles will be in the description below.
And then you kind of spoke on it a little bit earlier. But how was the transition from having male privilege to now being treated as a woman?
No one listens to me anymore, which is probably No, I was always treated a little everyone was like, well, this is clearly a gay man before,
Mhm.
but I was really good at like talking to old men. Like old men loved me because and it was so performative. Like not performative in the way of I'm like, oh my God, they'll never know. But I'm like, watch this. I'm gonna make Randy here fucking love me. And I'd be like, Randy working harder, hardly working. I'm not kidding. That's all it
They love
takes
that
to make a
line.
man be like,
They love that
hell yeah,
line.
brother! High five. And like, it was literally like, and because I was straight, and like, I would usually use that to like disarm when I could kind of feel that maybe a man felt a little weird about me. I would just, I could like talk about like my girlfriend or my wife or whatever, and that would just seem to calm men down. Men are not calm around me anymore. And if that's because they're attracted to me or because again, I'm at this point where I'm like, I don't know if people are clocking me or if I'm just cute. And for most men, it's like I kind of don't want either of those to be true. But but it's like it is weird. I remember the first time a man asked a question. It was during my school bus driver training, and I was literally had just read that passage like that night to be like, oh, he's like, what's the difference between this and this? And I go, oh, so what you're gonna do is this. And I saw the man turn, like he just kind of like started to turn his body and then his face, and then he looked away from me and then asked the man standing next to me the question that I was answering. I'm just like, and in that moment, it just, even the bad stuff
You
is just
wanted
so
to
funny because I was literally like,
strangle them.
I want to strangle you, but this is also real. Like I clocked it 100%. I'm like, he's not
Mhm.
listening to me because I'm a lady. That's so affirming. Also, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
It's like a bunch of emotions at that point.
Yeah, yeah, seriously. I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, awesome. Also, hey,
And then would you say there are any like guilty pleasures that you enjoy now as a woman?
guilty pleasures.
Like maybe
Being a
something
lesbian rules. Being a lesbian rules so much.
I love lesbian love.
I love being able to. My girlfriend and I literally send each other like the most 100% made for a male audience. Like like falling out of a sundress, beautiful women, and that's all we send back each other back and forth on TikTok. It's like, hey, check her out. Like she looks like here's a redhead. Um, and that feels slightly less creepy now as a
Yeah.
as a woman. So I mean, that's a guilty pleasure.
It's fair.
What about vice versa? Was there anything you miss being able to do it, like as a man versus now that you're a woman, you're not able to do anymore, or it would be seen as weird to be doing?
This say I mean, while in general the safety is a little bit of the thing where I'm just like I still like I've been very fortunate and I've really not had anyone do any violence towards me. Like once or twice I had a guy like scream in my face, pre-transition still. And I was just kind of like, that's weird. This guy's really mad about something. Oh well, and just kind of walk away. So like I still kind of move through the world like that and I'm every now and like every now and then someone will be like, "Hey, are you?" I remember someone walked me to my car one time, and I was like, "Why are they walking me to my car?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, dark, scary parking lot. You know, I'm in parking lots at like 4 a.m. doing like getting buses ready for trips. Not that there's really other people there, but every now and then I will be like, it'd be real easy for someone to just jump me because I am very small and I cannot fight. Um, I think a sillier answer to that is I miss flirting with really, really old ladies in the way that you could as a man. Like I could if I could charm old men, I could charm older women like crazy. And it was like I was in theater and all the men are gay and I'm sitting there straight and I would just like walk through the room and like literally kissing like 80-year-old women's hands and they loved that shit.
And how has dating been as a trans woman? Because you said you got a divorce slightly before your transition. So how was that like pre-transition, transitioning stage while you were talking to people?
Dating's been fine and honestly easy. I was in, let's see, figure out in 2017 and it was 2021 when that partner and I broke up. Um and I'm polyamorous, so I a little bit before that person that I went to go see, she and I started dating, and in very short succession, um, I broke up with that long-term partner for non-transition related reasons. Um, and then she broke up with her wife, and so she moved here, and we dated for 2.5 years. It's also like not to put too fine a point on it, is I'm a top with a Cialis prescription, um, and I'm popular. Like it's been good. I briefly dated. I've only dated one man, and it was like 3 dates. I identify as bisexual, but like, man, men just do talk a lot. Like, I'll be like, yeah, cool. Oh, he's my type. He seems woke, and then just everything has to be perfect with a man, and every woman I see, I fall in love with. So. I think there's a lot of comp hits. It's very gender like the man was very interesting that I was dating because it was super gender affirming, like, and also very like I mean he was like a muscular tall man. He could pick me up with one arm, and I was just like, oh, this has never been I'm very small, so like most of my partners have been bigger than me, but this is very different. But I don't know. It was just very, the pretty much whenever we were doing anything, I'd be like, this is so interesting. Like, this is so affirming, but I kind of wish it would stop so I could go talk to someone about it. And I'm like, I don't know if that's attraction. That's interest. It's fascination. Like, I remain open to the concept of dating a man, but yeah, I'm on paper bisexual and practice very lesbian.
That's
No,
fair.
women just do it differently. That's why. And as far as your transition as a whole, what do you think took the longest for you to accept or love about yourself?
I have a few like physical characteristic, like it's probably mostly
Mhm.
physical characteristics. Like my voice, I have to like kind of I have to kind of like make my peace with my voice, and I basically have because I love my speaking voice. I love my singing voice. It's not feminine though, and it was never that big of a deal to me because I'm just like, you know, you get I get 30 seconds into a voice training video and then I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. Um, kind of as I already said. There are several characteristics that I have that I there are things that I do not think are feminine on me, but that are still good. Like I have fairly broad shoulders, but like weirdly several dresses that I learned to wear some dresses that actually do accentuate them, but it like works in a way. It's just like the way that my body looks to me isn't how it looks to other people. And other people are like, no, your shoulders are great. Like your hands are cool, like your jawline, like your jawline and your chin are good. Like I like those things. I'm like, like this is like a Gaston chin right here. I mean, it used to be like there's a more baby fat here going on now, but I used to have like this crazy sharp jaw that was really fun to accentuate with makeup when I was doing theater. Um, so it's just like there are things that aren't gonna change, that that there's a perfect version of there's this impossible idealized of a woman's body, and I like that idea, but like a lot of the transitional stuff is just sort of turned into your bog standard women's body issues where I wish my boobs were bigger, I wish you know my hips were bigger, that my butt was bigger, and I had a six pack, and you know but I don't want to go to the gym, like I'm not doing that. So a lot of those things, yeah, they just kind of roll. They've just kind of turned into regular women's body issues, and then like you're getting older too, so like there's a cunty little dangle of skin that every now and then is starting to form right here, and I'm like, I'm gonna be such a cool old lady when my neck gets all crazy wrinkly.
And so, what advice would you have for younger trans women?
Probably it would probably be that to don't wait to finish transitioning before you live your life because like yeah, like if you're at the very beginning of it, it's going to take like because it's going to take a while. If you shut yourself away from the world for 5 years in order to, get good at makeup and finish transitioning, you're going to be a weird shut-in even after those things have changed. And you're also going to miss out on a lot of your life. Um so I like having that, and it's hard if you're a trans woman in the middle of nowhere and you have no queer community. It's hard, but like that's why a queer community who's accepting of, you know, different body types and, different stages of transitionness, you know, passing isn't the goal in those kind of spaces, and like it's fine, even if you're at the very very beginning of it, like for all the other reasons of getting for all the other reasons that having a queer community is really good and important, that would be the thing to do, is like don't wait to finish transition before you start living your life.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get stuck in the fact that, like, they won't be 100% happy until everything is done, but it's like your the process and your transition can't dictate your happiness. Like, you have
Yeah.
to be able to be happy before doing any medical, surgeries, hormones, medication, all of that. So, I think, yeah, doubling down on, like, finding your own happiness and everything else will come with that.
To not put too
And
fine a point on it,
as
I think that's what's cool about being in the Warhammer community, which is, well, there's always the shitty dude bros, but like it's very a lot of the places I'm around are very accepting of like non-binary people, and of like I've had a few people like ask my pronouns before things, and I even had some man made a weird comment towards me, and like two different people like reach out to me, like, hey, what, like, I heard he said something to you, like, what was that? If they could tell that I was confused by that, they're like, we've had problems with him in the past, was he saying something weird to you? I'm like, yeah, but not like that, like, but so like that's a cool place that's starting to get more trans friendly, and like there's lots of trans people in that space that are, I mean, again, I don't know where anyone is in their transition, but there are several people in my very, very local club, even like some people in charge who were, they were a dude when they started and they're not anymore. And like that doesn't seem to phase a lot of people. So play war if you're a
that's
trans
really
person,
cool.
also start playing Warhammer because I want to play with you.
And what hopes do you have either for yourself or for the LGBTQ community as a whole?
Oh, that we survive the country's descent into fascism. Um, yeah, I'm trying not to be a bit of a doomer these days, and I don't think I am. Like, I do think that I think we've gotten too far in to go back all the way, and like, you know, I suspect I'll overturn gay marriage soon, and I think that will re crystallize the queer community into one thing where it's like, cool, you see what we were saying? See what we were saying like 10 years ago when they started attacking the trans community? Like, they're not going to stop there. Like, you can't be a pick me. So I hope that the unseriousness of the young people in the face of fascism, which takes away a lot of fascism's power, and the people who are our queer elders who earned those, like, we've got our queer elders who earned those rights, like millennials who are like lived during like this golden age, and then this upcoming uh this younger generation that's going to be like, what the hell, we were told we could do this, was okay now. That I don't think it's going to be messy, and it's not going to be quiet, and I like to remain hopeful for that. But for me personally, you know I'm just kind of living my life. I'm collecting a little bushel of partners and friends, and building a little community on TikTok, and um, meeting weird dudes for their podcasts affectionately.
All taken well. Um, so speaking of your TikTok, can you give them your handle again so they can give you a follow if they're
Yeah.
interested in your content?
I'm a Titan of Joy on TikTok. I'm in a bunch of other places, but I don't really post anywhere but TikTok. You can also search Jubilee Titan of Joy. And if you hear videos about Jubilee needing to be canceled, they're not talking about me. They're talking about that terrible rage bait site. Rage
Oh
bait
yes,
site.
fuck
It's not me.
the
It's really
YouTube
hard to
channel
search for
Jubilee.
Jubilee. It's not me. All the time, like the number of friends and mutuals and even like bigger creators that I respect who I'll see a video. So we all know Jubilee needs to be canceled. I'm just like, oh my god, what did I do? Yeah. I do lots of queer content. It's about 50%. That's more than 50% Warhammer, but it's lots of Warhammer.
Mhm.
But I'm very snarky too. I love using people's shitty comments to usually misunderstand what they mean. Um, and
I just
it's a good
watched one
time.
of them
If you like snark,
recently that was like,
which one?
it was one of the comments that was like, people like you are the reason why trans people get a bad rep. And it's like, okay, yeah,
Oh
I'm
my
the reason
god,
people
yeah.
hate trans people. because of the one comment I
As the
made.
elected representative of the
Yes,
entire
yeah,
queer
yeah.
community.
That one.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I should do better.
No, but yeah, if you love dark humor, give her a fucking follow because she posts really funny
Oh yeah.
TikToks.
For sure.
But yeah, was there anything else that you wanted to talk about that we didn't touch on?
I don't think so. I think I've been talking for a long time. It's dinner time, so I think I'm good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Awesome. No,
having me
yeah,
on.
Of course.
of course, thank you for agreeing to come on. We appreciate the support. We're just a small little channel trying to connect to all the trans people out there. So
Hell yeah.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Two Guys Unfiltered. A huge thank you to Jubilee for sharing her story today. If today's episode resonated with you or reminded you of your own, we would love to hear from you. Click the link in the description to fill out the form if you're interested in being our next guest.
don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs it. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other. Bye.